Ah. Well, there's no accounting for taste. Welcome, everybody, to the Wednesday, November 15th, 2023 Albany Revitalization Agency meeting. Can you go ahead and get a call to order?
Chair Newton.
Present.
Members McGee.
Present.
Kopczynski.
Here.
Johnson second.
Here.
Smith.
Here.
Montague.
Here.
And Novak.
Here. All right, item 3 on our agenda is the approval of our meeting minutes.
I move we approve the minutes as written. Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? All right, those are approved. Item number 4 on our agenda is business from the public. Did we have anyone submit any business to the public? And then did we have anyone that signed up? Excellent. All right, so item number 5 is our scheduled business, which is the approval of railroad construction and funding agreement, or discussion of the railroad construction and funding agreement. All right, so let's open up the floor for discussion for the for this railroad project.
If you don't mind, I've got a brief intro if you'd like it.
Sounds great.
Okay, so as you noted, the action in front of you is to approve by motion the use of $750,000 of the agency's remaining spending authority toward the waterfront project. Unfortunately, as you saw in the memo, the estimate provided by Portland and Western's engineer was lower than the bids showing the actual cost to complete the work, which is why additional funds need to be approved to cover the gap. ODOT Rail has already issued the crossing order, so we are required to complete this work. It's certainly not welcome news that the cost is higher than we thought, but as I think Stacy will point out too, that's not uncommon with this sort of really specialized railroad work. Thankfully, the ARA has funds available to close the gap and ensure that the waterfront project is completed. So again, I'm usually pretty brief with these. There's a lot of really good information in your memo, but I'd like to turn it over to Stacy to provide some additional detail.
Thank you, Sophie. So good evening. So the staff memo, as Sophie said, does outline a request that the agency consider approving additional funding for railroad crossing improvements along the Water Avenue corridor. This is from Calapooya Street to Hill Street. These are improvements that would be constructed by Portland and Western Railroad, and were designed and they're being constructed in conjunction and to coordinate with the waterfront project. The construction and maintenance agreement that was brought before ERA at the September 27th meeting, that was an agreement between the city and Portland and Western. And it was completed after a crossing order was finalized and approved by the Oregon Department of Transportation Rail Division. In this CMA agreement, it did include a cost estimate from the railroad engineer of $2.4 million. And in the staff memo that was included in the packet, the first column in that table reflects that estimate. Unfortunately, so after the CMA agreement was executed, Portland and Western went out to bid. And on October 19th, the railroad engineer contacted staff to notify us that they had received 2 bids for the crossing improvements, ranging from a low bid of $3.42 million to a high bid of $3.49 million. Was really unfortunate news. Everybody kind of took a deep breath, and then we reached out to talk with the railroad engineer to review like, where did this cost increase come from? And it is significant. And, we acknowledge that. The bid tab, we reviewed the bid tab with the railroad engineer, and, do think that the bids that were received, they reflect the actual cost of the work. The reasons for this is, number one, the railroad received 2 bids for the project. These bids were within 2% of each other. What that shows us is that both contractors saw the plans the same way, and they were using similar costs for materials, labor, for the work. If there would have been a big gap, that would have reflected or instigated more concern from staff. The other thing is railroad construction in general, it's specialized. It makes it more susceptible to increases resulting from labor and material fluctuation cost. There are a limited number of contractors that are actually approved to bid on railroad work. Most of the contractors that bid on city jobs, they can't bid on railroad work. And so have like a limited number of contractors that can look at the bids. And so it was actually a bonus that 2 contractors looked at this work. And the other thing that influences costs on railroad work is that the materials that are used to construct the rails, the concrete panels, these are all specialized materials. There's only a limited number of suppliers that can provide these materials. I also want to provide some background on development of the construction and maintenance agreement that ERA approved in the September meeting, and then just development of the crossing order that ODOT issued. So when design on the waterfront project started, the city had to initiate a diagnostic meeting with ODOT Rail, and then also with BNSF Railroad and with Portland and Western Railroad, to discuss the rail crossing improvements along the corridor. So any development or project that requires alteration of a railroad crossing, this triggers a requirement for a diagnostic meeting with ODOT and a revised crossing order. It was necessary during the diagnostic to look at the entire corridor. One of the reasons is to make sure that the net number of crossings that exist along the corridor doesn't increase. ODOT Rail and the railroads have a policy that they don't allow that to happen. And so in improving some crossings, we had to look at closing others. When you add pedestrian crossings, you have to close others. And so staff had to look at it with ODOT and the railroads with a corridor approach in developing the crossing order. The draft crossing order for the Water Avenue corridor was developed in, I believe it was March of 2022. ODOT provides all interested parties, so that would be the city and the 2 railroads, an opportunity to review and provide input before issuing the final order. Unfortunately, that didn't happen until July of this year. The crossing order is a binding agreement. It requires that improvements be substantially complete within 2 years of the date of the crossing order. It was developed to include elements of our 2008 Water Avenue Streetscape Design Guide. This was a plan that was adopted by City Council. A little good news, and I think I shared this with you in September, this crossing order, when it was issued, was the first time in 20+ years where ODOT and the railroads agreed to back off on requiring signalized intersections, the rail crossing arms, when an intersection was improved. So when you look at other intersections along the corridor that have been improved, revised crossing orders were issued for those intersections, and the automated crossing arms were required. Those are very expensive. I think the last time we checked, they were $750,000 of additional cost on top of just your typical railroad crossing improvements. So it was a real benefit to the city and just the potential for the Water Avenue corridor in general to have that decision by ODOT. So staff is recommending that ERA consider allocating the additional $757,000 of the agency's spending authority that that Manager Adams mentioned. We are also recommending that the agency consider allocating $681,000 of transportation systems development charges. This would be to help address the funding gaps. So the Water Avenue is identified as a project in our 2010 Transportation System Plan and is eligible for TSDC funding. If the agency were to direct staff to consider TSDC funds, we would just need to come back to a future council meeting, probably in January, to formalize redistribution of TSDC funds towards the Water Avenue project. I guess lastly, I just want to mention that, you know, it's very unfortunate that the railroad work was underestimated and the bid prices came in higher than expected. We're fortunate that there is options to look at additional funding to address the gap. If the agency, I guess, approves the additional funding, we could go on. And I don't know, I can answer questions at this.
Jackie, you have a question?
Yeah, so I hear what you're saying as far as the increased price and specialized work, and we were lucky to have the couple bids that we did. But what I'm missing here is any sort of details on what it was that is driving the increase in cost. Was that materials? Is it labor? Is it a combination of each? Because we do have the estimate from July, and all we got in the packet was like the total of that estimate from July in a table next to the new total, and no details about what our new, like the new details under it, similar to that estimate. Like, is it, you know, I think, is it increase in flagging costs, or is it a combination of all the things? I think having the details is going to be important for us as we try to, you know, negotiate people who are asking us questions. It will help to have a little bit more of that detail. And that's what I was missing in the packet. So if you could forward that to us, that would be, I think, helpful for everybody.
Yeah, I could forward that to you, and then just to provide some information. So the majority of the increase is in the actual construction of the crossing improvements, materials, and labor. It's installing and welding the rails, the tracks, and the concrete panels. That work alone with the labor associated with it constituted like $800,000 increase compared to what was in the bid. And then the smaller, I wouldn't call them softer costs, but like the mob, the flagging, and insurance, those were much smaller. It was like around a $200,000.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Quick question. Is it this that you gave me when we spoke yesterday? The email that you printed out? If so, we can have it distributed to the rest of
Yeah, that's
the
the
board
railroad.
agency.
Got the details?
Yeah,
I'd love to have a copy of that.
yeah,
Does that line up with that estimate? Same
I'm
kind
not
of.
sure. Probably
No?
not. Okay.
It doesn't exactly, but you can look at the different line items in the email that I sent to staff, and the construction, the materials lines up with. In the CMA agreement, I think there was just one lump sum crossing surface improvement of
Yes.
$1.9 million. And that work that would be included in that item was like around 1,000 more.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
I
Yeah,
know
that
I
would
have
help.
several questions, but I want to make sure, does anyone else have any questions they want to have answered?
I want to listen to where she responds.
Okay, so I have a few
That's just
questions.
me.
Okay. You mentioned that we are required to complete this work per ODOT. What is the penalty if we do not?
Well, we would have to, I guess, have a new diagnostic with ODOT.
Can you elaborate on what that is?
That would be basically starting the process over. So if we didn't follow this crossing order, we need to have crossing orders in place for any crossing over the railroad tracks that's used by pedestrians or vehicles. So if we did not comply with this crossing order, we would, if we went to ODOT and said, we don't have the funds to do this work, we would have to basically restart the process. Potentially putting, well, I think we definitely would need to put like any improvements that we are going to be making to like the entrance to the Riverfront Community Center, for instance. That's one of the main crossings that we're going to be improving. All that would be put on hold, and we would have to start the diagnostic all over again with the two railroads and ODOT.
Okay, so I did talk to Sean Kidd, and I'm so grateful you're here as well. So I have two questions. Sean, I know that you and I spoke about if we had to, whenever I look at a budget and I'm saying, oh, I'm over budget, what can I cut? Did you review the contract that I believe was also sent out, and it's also printed out for everyone on their desk? If we're able to do, only some of the railroad crossings, or if we are required to do each of them?
Well, so what we looked at is the final order that came out from ODOT Rail. And my opinion is we can't pick and choose which ones to do. If we were going to eliminate some of the crossing improvements or any of the stuff, whether we're going to eliminate a crossing improvement or a new crossing or getting rid of a crossing, we would have to go back through the process again. And if you look at the ODOT Rail final order, it acts as a legal document in that it has all of the things we're doing in the caption, and it's a final order. So if we think of it as a lawsuit or a case, and the judge comes out with a final order, we couldn't change that final order without going back and reopening the case or appealing the case. And in this case, this was issued like that. In fact, at the bottom of this, it says you have 60 days to appeal this order to the Court of Appeals, which I believe expired September the 24th or 5th of this year. But anyway, the appeal period is expired. So I don't believe, based on looking at the ODOT Rail final order, that we will be able to cut some out without going back to ODOT Rail and getting their approval. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, that does help. And I have two follow-up questions. Sophie, Director Adams, did we have the final bids and all that information prior to the 60 days for appealing? No, that's what I'm seeing from Stacy. Okay. So it also, I'm curious, is there any kind of insurance to cover the gap? It does seem like from Ms. Belcastro, it does seem like ODOT's fault. If we submitted March 2022 and they didn't approve until July 2023, that doesn't seem like it's anything on our end. Is there any kind of insurance or a way to potentially explore recouping the cost?
Is the question directed at me? I don't
Well,
know.
whoever, I'm not sure if it'd be Sean or if it would be.
Oh, I don't believe there's any type of insurance we could get on that. It definitely wouldn't be city county insurance that covers us under tort claim notices. It might be something that if we were going to get some type of insurance that was available, and that it would be through Chubb. I don't think that exists, but I don't, off the top of my head, 100% couldn't say one way or the other.
Is there any way to
Yeah, so
I'm not sure if I'm able to talk about this at all, but would that be a lawsuit? Because that's really a couple like $1 million is over especially for smaller cities. We aren't Portland. We aren't a larger municipality where this could just be like a line item error. And it seems like it was firmly in ODOT's court to approve. Is
so
that
the original, and I'll apologize, I haven't seen the original estimate. I saw what it was, but was there a document, Stacy, an original estimate that came out? The 2.3 million, was that an actual document that they gave us with breakdowns?
Yeah, the railroad engineer developed a statement of probable cost.
Okay, and is that's what it says, probable cost? And so I'm sure there disclaimers on there that it was only an estimate and not, not guaranteed and all that.
Yes, it is, you know, it would be nice if the process was different. The way it
Yeah.
works is you do the diagnostic to develop a draft order, statement of probable cost is developed, but the railroad doesn't actually go out to bids until number one, the final order is issued. That
Mhm.
has to happen. And then after the final order is issued, that's when the construction and maintenance agreement is developed and then executed. And then only after that point will the railroads, and this is true for Union Pacific, BNSF, Portland and Western, it's only after that point that they actually go out for bids, which is,
So it keeps you in this endless bureaucracy loop with your, no, but it's also ODOT. It's not just the railroad. So it's ODOT gives us then 60 days, then appeal to make changes, but we don't know how much it's going to cost until we have the bid and then we're reassessing our budget. So it feels like this endless, hamster wheel. And it's kind of just pony up the money, or you're gonna have to, get back on the escalator and you're going to go through this arduous process. And oh, we probably want to prove something for a year and a half, which is absolutely laughable when you're looking at a government agency. That should not be allowed. So I'm curious. I think it's worth exploring to see if there's any kind of responsibility that we could have, either to make the process change for ODOT and for the railroad companies, because this is not just going to be affecting Albany. I'm sure of it. Something else that I was thinking about. So you mentioned the crossing arms. Personally, I feel that isn't really something that we need to worry about, because once they've already made the plan without the crossing arms, I think they'd have to make a really good argument. I'm just saying, if we had to go back, make a really good argument to say, no, now you do have to have crossing arms. I feel like they couldn't renege their initial plan. It's not, so that's my own 2 cents. If we were to go and add, you said $683,000 of TSDC funds, how does that impact other projects that they have planned? Do you know?
there's adequate budget in the TSDC fund. And in fact, we were already, for some time now, we've been planning to allocate, I think it was 500,000 towards the waterfront project. And so we're increasing it to help cover this gap, but there are adequate funds.
Can you elaborate what adequate means?
There's adequate funds in the reserve balance to not impact any other planned projects in the current budget or forecast out 5 years.
Okay, thank you. And then also, we are looking at an impending recession. One just has to ask, is this the best use of funds? Is our construction costs going to come down? And personally, as someone that's dealt with, obviously not specialized contractors, I've gotten a few FU bids in my life, and I've gotten a few FU bids a few times in a row. So it almost feels like, I just feel like $1 million cost increase is absolutely reprehensible, especially when considering the, when ARA agreed to sell, the Wells Fargo building, and then ended up having to tear it down, and then we just sold it, for pennies in the dollar. We aren't making anything, and it just feels quite laughable. Like, are we being conscious of what we're spending, and are we making the best decisions? That's my question as well. So there you go. I'm through my paper. So if anyone else has questions.
I'd like to add a comment. I share your concerns. I appreciate the work that staff has done. I do. I know there are things that happen that are beyond everyone's control, because that's life, but I'm concerned about the financial aspect. I've had concerns. I mean, there are things that excite me about the whole waterfront, and there are things that have been concerned about ever since I've been on council discussing it. I honestly don't feel like I can vote to move ahead in good conscience myself right now.
Go ahead, Ms. Smith.
The ARA board made a decision in 2018 to pursue the waterfront project and to devote the rest of the borrowing authority for the agency to that project and close out the district. That's what we're doing. I don't like the increase in the price either, but it was an estimate. It's a specialized bid. It's a specialized project. The entire waterfront project hinges on completing this. We have to do it. It would be reprehensible and it would be wrong to not do it. You don't put on a dress when you haven't finished the hem. You don't, it all hinges on this. To stop work on the crossings means we can't finish Monteith Park. It means we can't finish anything else down there. It has to be done. And I don't see that there's anything further to discuss.
Councilor Konzinski has.
Mr. Kopsinski?
Yes, I 100% concur with Counselor Smith. This has been going on for so long. It is like we've already said multiple times, this is the capstone project for the urban renewal district. We've got to get it done, get it out of the way. So they've got the money is already available to use. And if we don't use it, we're just going to be sitting here wasting time. Costs are going to continue to go up, and doing another analysis of it is just simply wasting time. I'm all in favor of finishing it off and getting it done.
I have another question as well. Thank you so much, Mr. Kopsinski. I have another question, Ms. Belcastro. So what I'm hearing from Mr. Kidd is that we aren't able to pick and choose which the crossings that we do without going and getting another order approval from ODOT. What is the actual term is?
Diagnosed.
Yeah, we would have to initiate a new diagnostic with ODOT to look at the entire corridor again.
I know when we met yesterday, we were talking about some of the crossings that might be, not totally hinged to the waterfront project, like Jackson Hill Street. Looking at a few of those things. Is it possible that we only end up doing a few of them and then say, hey, we can't finish the rest? Can we get a different work order? So then we're able to move forward, but then get them to change or alter any?
I can't see us being able to move forward that way. All the crossings that touch improvements that are being constructed with Water Avenue need to be constructed. And because we looked at the corridor holistically, there's crossings that need to be closed and improved just to make sure that the net balance of actual crossings doesn't increase. So I just can't see us.
And we don't know if things are going to increase or decrease. Things have been increasing recently, but there is an impending recession on the horizon. Costs could go down. It could happen. You can't with certainty say what's going to happen tomorrow. No one can. Okay.
So, mind if I?
Yeah, Mr. Johnson?
So we've been waiting, 21 years, 22 years for this project to get done. How long would it be to delay another diagnostic?
I don't know. I can't answer that. I know that the one that we just went through was started, I think, in 2020. So it's,
So we're looking at possibly up to 3 years.
mhm.
So we were tasked as a agency to sunset, get the project done, sunset the waterfront project, the district, so we can start doing the taxes, right? Our partners are not going to trust us if we don't do what we say we're going to do. If we ever want to do another improvement district, LID or whatever it may be, who is going to trust us if we don't execute like we said we're going to? We made a decision to finish the waterfront project. It's now time to finish it. If it costs an extra $1 million, it costs an extra $1 million. But here's the deal. The longer we delay, the less that resource will come online, the slower it takes to come online. Concerts, traffic, tourism, all those things are tied to the successful implementation and completion of our waterfront. We've all been talking about it for over 20 years.
Oh, Alex, Mike.
We've all been talking about it for over 20 years. It's time. Let's spend the money, get it done, so our citizens can enjoy their waterfront without any problems. The improvements need to be made for people with mobility devices, people that are gonna come visit us. They're gonna bring their dollars to our downtown and our waterfront and spend them. It's our job to prepare for the economic future of the city, and we're doing that by finishing this waterfront. And no matter if it's $1 million or $2 million or $3 million, the order's final. Final means what? Final. We're not gonna pick and choose. Let's get the waterfront done.
Something I'm wondering is if maybe there was a backlog with 2020, if then maybe that's why something took for a little bit longer than typical. So if we were to go in and change the order or get a request for that, there's a chance that possibly they'd be able to turn things around quicker. But that was just a thought once you said that date. Councilor McGee, did you have anything to add?
Can you send out like how it went up again, what Jackie asked about? It would be easy for me to explain that to people who are asking a lot of questions and people are not in favor. So just please make sure you get that out like as soon as possible with as much context and content as possible. So I'm able to articulate that to folks.
Sure. It sounds like we might not be able to come to a common consensus though, without that additional information. I think it might be fortuitous for us to move this meeting to a later date, maybe after the next council meeting.
I think that Stacy's description was good enough for me. I just was wondering what was driving that increase because I didn't have the details, but I think for me, I think that I have all the information I need in order to make a decision tonight.
Okay.
I'll make the motion to approve the contract increase as written.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Here,
I'm not a tiebreaker, but I'd be a no. All right, so guess that ends our scheduled business. So let's move forward with staff updates.
I don't have any planned updates for you at this time. We don't have a meeting scheduled for December, so I will look forward to seeing you all in January.
All right, business from the agency. Mrs. McGee, would you like to start first?
McGee, what?
Miss McGee?
When we're setting out the ARA agendas, if we can get them a little bit earlier, just so we have enough time to look over information and do research. So this can kind of go a little bit expedited, so we won't have all these additional questions. That's all I ask, is a little bit more promptness. Thank you.
No problem.
Mr. Kopsinski?
Well, since we're not going to be meeting until after Thanksgiving, I firmly hope everybody has a wonderful holiday and gets all the tryptophan you can possibly handle and enjoy the weekend, long weekend. Then I'll be down at the carousel for 3 days playing a jolly red guy. So hope to see some of you down there.
Mr. Johnson?
Actually, I'm really excited that we are one step closer to having a completed waterfront. I'm giddy over it. I've been bragging about Albany since being on city council, and 38 mayors have come to visit with me here in town. And I think it's great when I take them on the mayor's tour and I drive around the developments, the wastewater treatment center, Talking Water Gardens, and they all want to see the waterfront. So there's at least 38 people are going to come here, and the governor as well, to see the waterfront, enjoy the waterfront. So I'm excited we did this tonight, and I'm looking forward to seeing progress. That's it.
All right, Ms. Smith?
I can't top what he said.
All right, Ms. Montague?
I have nothing.
Ms. Novak?
I will just wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving as well.
All right.
For all of you. Yes.
Yeah, I just want to mention, I find it very curious that the two city councilors that represent Ward 1, that is the downtown district, voted negative for this. Also, I hope everyone has a great Thanksgiving. It's my first time hosting with my family. My in-laws will be there. The pressure is high. I've never made a turkey.
Got this.
And I'm not excited.
You'll be fine.
Something's gonna blow up, I'm fairly certain. Yeah, and my husband has already gotten out his mom's recipes, and We all know I will not be able to make them as well. So,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, so, all right, but, okay, so with that, let's go ahead and,
One moment.
oh, one thing?
Would you repeat what you said about the two representatives for Ward 1?
Yeah, we both voted in the negative on this. I just found it very peculiar and interesting.
Thank you for saying that because I didn't hear a negative vote from you.
You did.
Okay. I have difficulty hearing you,
Oh, I'm sorry.
always. So,
Oh, no.
and I thought it would change with
Still
the new sound system, but you speak very quickly, so I
Oh,
often have
I am
different.
sorry.
Okay, well,
I
thanks for
try to
clarifying.
intentionally slow myself down, but it doesn't work all the time.
Thank you.
Okay, all right, so with our next meeting date, January 17th, we'll go ahead and adjourn at
Thank you.
5:50.